Toronto's housing market in 2025 is starting off very sluggish, a lot slower than I expected, a lot slower than I think a lot of buyers, people in the market were expecting. I'm going to unpack some of the latest trends, what's going on the ground in today's episode. My name is John Pasalis. My team and I help buyers and sellers throughout the Toronto area make smarter real estate decisions. If you'd like to meet with me and my team, just click the link in the show notes below or send me an email at askjohn@movesmartly.com. So the start of the year, typically January, is usually, people don't realize this, January, February is usually actually a pretty competitive part of the year. It's usually when most buyers enter the market. And typically it's the period where there's not a lot of listings. So it tends to be a competitive market. That is not happening this year. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought the market would pick up a little bit. It was a very sluggish fall. The market in 2024 started busy, slowed down in the second half. And I wasn't expecting a crazy market, but I thought things would be a little bit busier than in the fall. But we're not really seeing that right now. If we look at the start of the year in terms of sales numbers, they're very similar actually to the past 2 years. In the past 2 years, 2023, 2024, were pretty much record low years. So sales volumes are not starting aggressively. We're not seeing a big rush into the market. There's a lot of hesitation right now in the market. And I think a couple of things are going on. I think the big thing, of course, is there's a ton of uncertainty in the market. Our prime minister stepped down. We have an election coming in Ontario. Our premier is calling an election. But more importantly, above all, I think with Donald Trump taking office, it's leading to a lot of uncertainty, concerns from people. Of course, he's coming out aggressively talking about tariffs, and I think that's his kind of way of negotiating. He comes out aggressively, almost with these kind of crazy claims, but it spooks the markets, and when there's a lot of uncertainty in the market and anxiety in the market, that's generally not good for housing, because a lot of people are worried about where things will be in the months ahead. Will things get worse? Will the U.S. introduce tariffs? How will that impact our economy? So when there's a lot of uncertainty, people kind of move to the sidelines. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. There's no urgency to buy, a lot of indifference. Of course, the people who are buying just need a home and are moving on, but, and they'll always have that level of demand. But it's not much higher. The market today is very similar to this last half of 2024. But when we compare it to the start of the previous couple of years, it's actually quite different, because even though sales volumes this year are kind of very similar to the past 2 years, the number of properties on the market is considerably higher. So if we look at the start of 2025, there are roughly, I think it's about 16,000 active listings on the market. That's well above the previous years. Last year, there were about 11,000, the year before, about 9,000. And of course, in 2022, when the market was booming, and maybe around 4,500 or 5,000. So there are a lot of active listings on the market. And it's not just condos. We're seeing the same dynamic in the low-rise market. And again, a lot of this is driven by very soft sales, but people kind of, listing their homes, some investors in particular for the condo market, exiting the market. So it's just leading to a decent volume of inventory. And what that means in the market is that the dynamics are very similar to the last half, meaning condo market's slow. Low rise is not an overly competitive market. And by low rise, I mean like semis, detached townhomes, the nicest homes in the nicest neighborhoods. If you're at an affordable price, yeah, some homes are still getting multiple offers, but it's not an aggressive market. The market is slow, showing volumes are pretty soft. And again, it's a continuation of what we saw in the second half of last year. And it is a bit interesting because despite the federal government's changes to mortgage rules, and I think I talked about this in our live update, like normally in the past, when the government loosens mortgage rules, allows people to, take on 30-year mortgage, increases the cap on insured mortgages from 1 million to 1.5, this would normally stimulate the market. And it's not having that effect, at least in the resale market. it might support other segments like new construction completions. But in the low rise market or in the resale market, we're not seeing this demand stimulus translate into higher volumes. So we'll see how the market plays out. It's looking like right now we're going to continue to see a sluggish market in the first half of this year. I don't think this economic uncertainty is going to change anytime soon. I think it's going to be a while before our federal government and the U.S. federal government start negotiating on whatever their trade disputes are and however those are going to be resolved. But they're not going to be resolved overnight. And I think as long as a lot of this uncertainty hangs over the market, we're probably going to see things move quite slowly. And I think that's kind of the dynamic that buyers and sellers should be prepared for. Again, sellers were hoping for a booming market, in 2025, holding off, but it's not looking like we have that dynamic yet. And again, things can change on the dime. They can get a little bit worse and get a little bit better. It's important to keep an eye on how things are evolving in the market, especially if you're actively considering buying, considering selling. And again, there are also, I should note, like some regional differences and differences in house types. So it's important to understand these very local dynamics. But as a whole, I'd say the market's really sluggish. And we'll see how things evolve in the weeks and months ahead. I hope you find that helpful. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below or shoot me an email at askjohn@movesmartly.com.